Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. So yesterday I was watching Full Spectrum Survival and he mentioned this article in his video and he went over it very shortly, but I thought that I would expand on it because I think it's very important, ladies and gentlemen. They are getting desperate. Who is they? The pundits that want us not to be prepared. Those that know that we are going to have a shortage of goods in the near future want us to not get prepared. Why, ladies and gentlemen? Because they're getting prepared. And if not, it's because they're already prepared. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, that one of the best ways that a population can be controlled is through food. So when I heard the Full Spectrum Survival host, and I always forget his name, I think his name is Chad, but forgive me if it's not. When I heard him mention this article where it says canned foods left for too long in your pantry can turn deadly, I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, because I've done a lot of research into this and I'm going to show you right now to where I'm not going to say that they intentionally lie because I don't want to get sued. So I'm not saying that they're lying, but maybe they're somewhat misinformed, and I'm going to show you how they're misinformed, and I'm going to show you how it is that canned foods will last a lot longer on your shelf if properly stored than what they're saying here. In my opinion, what they're saying here is propaganda to try to scare you from stocking up, ladies and gentlemen. Do your own research, but me personally, I'm not listening to this crap. There comes a point in most post-apocalyptic or zombie movies in which the heroes stumble upon a cache of years-old canned food and dig it right up. In reality, those canned foods are far more dangerous than zombies or whatever other threats exist in their dystopian world. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you understand how they're already starting this. They're starting this by making fun of people that have stocked up food. They're pretty much saying, what kind of a world are you living in that you think that you need to stock up for so long that you have more than a year's worth of food? What kind of a world do you think you're living in? Are you living in a movie world or something? So you understand that you have to read between the lines when you read articles like this. They continue to say that's why it is important to keep track of your pantry items to avoid getting sick from foodborne illnesses. That's a great idea. You should always inventory your pantry items. And ladies and gentlemen, a side note, if you have not been to Prepper Nerd's channel, he has an outstanding inventory system that allows you to track everything that you have in your pantry, going in, coming out. It allows you to track the calories, pretty much where it's located. That way you're not left looking for that can of tuna that you don't know where it is, and then 7 years later you find it in the corner of your pantry, which in any case should still be good to eat according to the USDA, but we'll get to that. The biggest danger from spoiled canned food is botulism, and that is true. Keyword, spoiled canned food. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, spoiled canned food. Of course, spoiled canned food is dangerous. But is it dangerous after you've stored it in the proper environment after 1 year, which is what they are kind of like saying here? At least that's how I'm reading it. They are taking this article and kind of like compartmentalizing it, putting bits and pieces here. Of course, that spoiled canned food is bad for you, according to anyone. You don't have to be an expert to know that spoiled food in a can is bad for you. And they continue to say the biggest danger from spoiled canned food is botulism, according to safety experts. Improperly prepared or stored home canning can create the right conditions for botulism spores to grow and produce dangerous toxins. Well, ladies and gentlemen, why are they pinpointing home canning? Any food that is improperly processed, that is processed in the wrong way, can be dangerous to eat. It's not just home canning. But they're pinpointing home canning. I wonder why. I wonder why they're pinpointing those things that people use to get prepared. Foodborne botulism is rare, but should be taken very seriously. And with that I agree. That's because you can't see it, smell it, or taste the toxin. But even a small amount of food containing it can make you quite ill and can be fatal. And that is true. And here is where I have a very big problem, and I'm going to go ahead and diverge from this article to something else to show you where this information, in my opinion, is not correct. It is the recommendation from the United States Department of Agriculture, and I do believe that's the USDA, that all home canned goods be used within 1 year. Beyond that, it should be disposed of. If the canned goods in your pantry or root cellar are beyond a year old or show obvious signs of broken seals or leaking food, Savoy said great care should be taken in disposing of them. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, if you run across a home canned jar of food that you have and it's lost its seal, no matter how old it is, you're not going to consume that food. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you what to do, but you have to do your own research. Now, my rule for whenever I open a jar that I preserve myself, a pressure can jar of meat or whatever it is that I pressure can myself or even water bathe, is I look at it first. If it looks like what it's supposed to look like, then it passes number 1. So for example, if you put away or if you pressure can some beef, right, which is my favorite, and you look at it and it looks like beef, like the way it's supposed to look, then number 1 is good to go. All right. If it looks green and yucky and there's worms crawling through it, you may not want to consume that or even go to step number 2. Right. Step number 2 that I follow is I make sure that there's still a seal on it. I go ahead and pop the lid and I make sure that I hear that nice suction sound, which means that it retained its negative pressure inside the jar, which means that it did not allow any air to go inside the jar while it was in storage. All right, so if it passes number 2, I go to number 3. And number 3 kind of like has 3A and 3B. So number 3, what I do is I smell the food and I look at it inside the jar. If it smells and looks okay, 3A is good. Now you have to remember too that if you pressure can, let's say for example some meat, it usually happens mostly with pork and beef, but if you pressure can some beef and the liquid level in that jar is a little bit below where the meat is sticking up, that top part of the meat is going to be a little bit off color than the rest of the meat. That's just because it didn't have any moisture. But in my experience, I've never had any of that go bad. So that's 3A. After you open the jar, you look in there, you make sure that everything looks and smells good. Once 3A is good, you go to 3B. 3B is I always make sure that I take the meat out of there and that I cook it thoroughly. Even though it's already been pressure canned and even though it's already been cooked, and most people would probably say it should be safe to be eaten out of the jar, I always make sure that I go ahead and cook it, and I cook it at high heat for a few minutes just to make sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so now I want to go ahead and take you over to the USDA site that talks about canned goods. So here, as you can see, this is the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture. And the question here is, how long can you keep canned goods? And I'm just going to read this to you verbatim. But I recommend that you do your own research. Just go to usda.gov, all right, and put in the search, how long are canned goods good for? All right. So it says here, store commercially canned goods and other shelf-stable products in a cool, dry place. Never put them above the stove, under the sink, in a damp garage or basement, or any place exposed to high or low temperature extremes. High acid foods such as tomatoes and other fruit will keep their best quality for up to 18 months. Low acid foods such as meat and vegetables 2 to 5 years. Wait for it, ladies and gentlemen, okay? If cans are in good condition, i.e. no dents, swelling, or rust, and have been stored in a cool, clean, dry place, they are safe indefinitely. Do you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? They are safe indefinitely. They may not keep their consistency, all right? They may not stay in the same shape that they were, but when it says here they are safe indefinitely, it means that it should not kill you if you eat it. Never use food from containers that show possible botulism, and the warnings are if they're leaking, if they're bulging, or badly dented cans, cracked jars, or jars with loose or bulging lids, canned foods with a foul odor, or any container that spurts liquid when opening. Even a minuscule amount of botulism toxin can be deadly. Can linings might discolor or corrode when metal reacts with high acid foods such as tomatoes or pineapple. As long as the can is in good shape, the contents should be safe to eat, although the taste, texture, and nutritional value of the food can diminish over time. Home canned foods should be used within 1 year. So you see what they did Do you see what they did in this other article right here? Where they said the USDA says that home canned foods should be used within 1 year. But they don't tell you everything else that the USDA told you. They told you that yes, maybe they recommend that home canned foods should be used within 1 year. But they didn't tell you that if stored properly in a dry, cool place, that if you check it and the jars aren't cracked, if the lids aren't bulging, if the food doesn't look like it's no good, that there are no signs of anything wrong with it, that it will be safe to eat indefinitely. They don't tell you that. See, ladies and gentlemen, this is what it's all about. It's about these people over here. And I'm not saying this person in particular. This person may be very ignorant as to what's going on, and all they did was just take bits and pieces from here and there in order to write an article, because I believe, I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that they get paid by the word, right? So they took bits and pieces from here and there that they can actually say, yep, this is where I got that information. Oh, where does it say that that the USDA said that home canned goods should be consumed within 1 year? Okay, there you go. It says that in that article. It says that, so I can use it. But they didn't say anything else of what the USDA said. What you should look out for, that if stored properly, that it will be safe to eat indefinitely as long as these conditions don't exist. So learn to read between the lines, ladies and gentlemen. And more importantly, I do agree with a few of the things that this article says. More importantly, ladies and gentlemen, rotate your food. You should be storing what you eat and eat what you store. All right, ladies and gentlemen, rotate your food. Unless you get those foods that were specifically packaged in a way that they can just store for 25, 30 years, like freeze-dried foods, then make sure that you rotate your foods. That's the easiest way to get around this. However, I have jars of meat that I can that are 6, 7, 8 years old. And I've opened some of those and consumed some of those on videos that I've shown you here on YouTube. So I know for a fact that I have canned goods that are good for a lot longer than 1 year, that are safe to eat, because I properly stored them and I properly processed them the way they're supposed to be. If you're at that part of your preparedness plan where you are now starting to put away long-term food storage, then consider Nutrient Survival. This is the best and most nutrient-dense long-term food storage in the market. I consume this on a regular basis every day just for the nutrients, because it is such a good product. Now, don't go out and buy Nutrient Survival today. Why is that? Because, ladies and gentlemen, I've been talking with Nutrient Survival, and they are going to have an awesome sale only for the AP community. So here, sometime next week, first week of September, I'm going to provide you with a code for a box of 6 of my favorite Nutrient Survival entrees and dessert, where you're going to get some free stuff. You're going to have a chance to win a gold Alaska Prepper coin, and I will personally mail an Alaska Prepper silver coin to the first 100 of you that purchase a pack. And this is going to be a great deal. When I talked to Nutrient Survival, I said, listen, our next promotion has to be one where they get stuff for free and they get an outstanding deal. And I can't wait to fill you in on it. They're still working out the details, so hold on. Don't buy any Nutrient Survival until I go ahead and make the announcement and provide you with the code where you're going to get the best deal that I've ever seen Nutrient Survival do since their inception. Now, when I say this, ladies and gentlemen, I mean it. Feed your freedom with Nutrient Survival.